Welcome, everyone, to the global gathering Shamanism for Inspired Action, from vision to creation. This event is designed to share how shamanism can inspire actions and enrich our lives, our communities, and Mother Earth with deep love, compassion, gratitude, and joy. Shamans are the torchbearers of their inner light, taking action motivated by a deep sense of purpose. And shamanism is a way to tap into creative inspiration that comes from within, the spirit we are, that will lead us to take authentic steps towards what our hearts and souls desire most. We will discuss what's possible when the invisible realms are acknowledged and honored, when nature is loved and celebrated as a part of ourselves. We'll explore how surrendering to our helping spirits, to our ancestors, can help support our actions. Shamanism provides a space to deepen our inner knowledge so that new ideas, new thoughts, and pathways can emerge. And in a time when it can be tempting to define ourselves solely through external concepts, your participation at this global gathering will inspire you to reconnect with your inner wisdom and to act in alignment with your spiritual source. So it is with gratitude and great joy that I welcome everyone to be part of this global gathering. I'm Celine Roche, I'm your host for this event. And today I'm very happy to present you with Krista McKinnon. Thank you so much, Krista, for joining us today.
Thank
It's
you so
wonderful
much for inviting me.
it's really, wonderful to have you with us today. And you've done marvelous work. So I'm really excited to share that with everyone. So Krista, for those of you who don't know you yet, she's a psychologist, therapist, and shamanic and medicine teacher. She's an international speaker and earth activist. She's the author of 3 acclaimed books about shamanism and therapeutic shamanism, including the best-selling Shamanism, Awaken and Develop the Shamanic Fourth Wisdom, published by Hay House, and the co-creator of the Medicine Woman Wisdom Oracle cards. So Krista founded Bridging the Worlds, which trains therapeutic professionals in shamanic approaches, and she also co-founded the Modern Medicine Woman Training School, which facilitates medicine women practitioner training courses and shamanic workshops for women. So, and she's focusing on empowering them to bring their gift and medicine into the world. So Krista sees herself as a modern medicine woman, growing slowly into the role of an elder. And the strands of her work combine her profound shamanic knowledge acquired through apprenticeship with indigenous teachers in Ecuador, Peru, and around the world, with her Celtic roots and her experience as an international psychology trauma specialist. So beside of her work with individuals and groups, she's also a deeply committed activist in her role as a co-founder of the community interest company Sacred Earth Activism, which brings shamanic approaches such as ceremony and ritual, as well as awareness of the wider field into concrete activism on the ground. So her overall work is designed to contribute to the individual and collective reconnecting to earth, spirit, and the deeper wisdom of the feminine, as well as a necessary expansion of consciousness to achieve an overall shift in paradigm. So again, we're thrilled to have you.
Thank you so much. That was a long, winding introduction. And you can see that I'm really walking towards elderhood, because you can only do that much when you had a long life already. Hello, and
Full,
thank you so much for inviting me.
oh, you're so welcome. A full accomplished life. It's really amazing what you've created, and I can't wait to hear more. And today's the topic of your talk today is co-creating with our allies, visioning and creating with the lands, waters, and ancestors.
Mm.
So, which is a beautiful opening to what we're going to discuss here today. So first, could you tell me a bit about your range of work and how it developed and why you chose on co-creating with our allies?
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, my work developed like, for many of us, more from working with individuals. First, of course, as a psychologist and therapist, and then I decided that this is really not enough. And I have always been a spiritual person, but I was more leaning towards the East, more towards Buddhism. And I remember very well doing my first shamanic workshop, and it felt like I'm coming home. Suddenly I understood what was missing. What was missing was this connection, you know, between earth and sky, rather than a spiritual approach which goes up, an approach which really comes from the ground up, which forms that connection between earth and sky. And I think that for me was a kind of homecoming. So then I started incorporating it more and more into psychology. And the first book came out of that, basically saying psychology sees the human too narrow. All therapy sees the human too narrow. It needs to be embedded in a wider field. And it really developed from there. I mean, once you have a book out, you get invited, and I run more and more courses and workshops for therapists, teaching them shamanism. I dropped the university lecturing I did at the time still, and then sooner or later just moved completely into shamanism. But I'm still using my background knowledge, you know, of modern psychology quite a lot, but not in a sense that I declare this is psychology. I just know that a lot of the background knowledge comes into the work I do. And so I run groups, workshops, training courses for therapists. As I said, that is was quite new at the time when I started doing that. Nobody else was doing it. To run specific training courses in shamanic approaches for therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists and so on. And then a bit later, I started working more with women because I really feel that we need the feminine, that the yeah, I don't want to say patriarchal societies, but that kind of toxic patriarchy, the toxic masculinity has taken over too many areas. We are completely out of balance. So I really feel very strongly that it's important to work with women and to empower women and to bring that to the fore. So that's when I founded together with Vanessa the Modern Medicine Woman Training School. And it's only a few years ago that activism somehow started calling, and mostly really pushed by the environmental movement. It just felt like coming back to a more old and basic idea of shamanism is that the shaman is in a way a person who works for the community. A shaman doesn't do self-development. Self-development is an aspect which automatically happens because the shaman has to connect to all there is, to all the spirit realms. But he or she connects to that to bring something into the community. It's in the end, it's for the community and individual members of the community. And I have written in one, and I stop in a second, but I've written in one in my books that in a way, the job of the ancient shaman was to keep the community in alignment with the wishes of spirit. And what we have done, I think, more in the modern world, especially a bit influenced by the New Age movement, we have turned it into an individual approach. And I think the idea of looking more at which community can I actually serve, rather than, as I came from individual therapy, rather than just working with individuals and groups, where is the community, the bigger community? And we don't live in tribal societies anymore. So the bigger community kind of turned out to be the change movement, to say, and that was, of course, then inspired by Standing Rock. Because what they did in Standing Rock they, for the first time on a big scale, brought the sacred into concrete activism. And so inspired by that, we then formed about 5 years ago Sacred Earth Activism, which is a community interest company which works directly on the ground, bringing basically ritual, ceremony, prayer, and so on, into direct action on the ground, be that in camps or be that in on marches or be it in gatherings. And so that's where the title came from. To answer your question, the title is really about, so how can we work together with our allies? Because that is what sacred work is about. This is not, I'm deciding this movement needs a ceremony. What we are using, and that's what I would like to talk about, if that's okay, is we are using visioning, and we're using really getting deeply connected with spirit before we actually design any action. So it's really important to understand that what Standing Rock did for us was to give us a template almost, how we can bring the sacred into a direct action. And they did exactly the same. They consulted with spirit beforehand. Their vision came from spirit. Everything they did was held ceremonially, and so on. So this is kind of the development. And I feel now this is for the rest of the time I have on this beautiful planet worth doing and developing.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, this is a big commitment that you made, and thank you for doing what you're doing. And I really appreciate what you said about acting upon the vision that you received. So being honoring that and respecting that. There's something also that you said about, how feminine and masculine need to be rebalanced. And how do you implement that in your organization as inspired action? So inspired action. So you're following this vision. What's different from, because we see creation all around and creation that are disruptive. So what is that you practice in your organization that can make a difference in the way of realizing the inspired action?
Question, because the feminine comes in the sense that most direct action needs a holding environment. And the feminine is a container. It's a holding container. And if we think back at Standing Rock, the first thing they did was light the sacred fire in the space. Yeah, the first thing they did. It wasn't about occupying. It wasn't about resistance. It was about creating a holding container in a form of a sacred fire in the space. And we did some action around one of our most important spiritual sites here in the UK, which is Stonehenge, which we held for almost a year. I can come back to that later. And the first thing we did was an opening ceremony for the action. And before we did the opening ceremony, and that's a very feminine way of doing things, we went there and asked the ancestors, what do they want us to do? So a very masculine way, we shouldn't get hooked up on these really, is, and a very Western way, is to come and say, I know exactly what's needed. While a kind of more sacred, shamanic, and with that also earth-centered, and with that feminine way, is to actually ask those forces what is needed, what do you need us to do? And because, for example, Stonehenge is very old. Of course, our ancestors created it. And there are many, many burial grounds in Stonehenge and around it. So the first step to do with anything like this is really to ask. So you go there, you tune in to the land, you tune into the ancestors, and you ask, what do you, land, sacred site, ancestors, need us to do? Yeah. And of course, the first thing which came was basically a holding space, do an opening ceremony, don't dash in there and occupy. Hold it, no? And so the whole way of working is very feminine because you receive first before you jump into action. Does that answer it a bit?
Yes, it's beautiful and very soft and powerful at the same
Yeah,
time. Mm.
very, very soft. And it is really about, when I said working or co-creating with our allies, it is really about co-creating with the land, with the ancestors, with the voters, depending which action we are getting involved in. And I feel, just looking at the overall theme of the conference, it feels to me as if, look, when we work shamanically, we all work in those energy realms. This is what we do. But it feels to me now that we need to, or that the time is right to also be on the ground directly and to make our voices heard, and but to do that in a different way, to do that with the tools and the means we have. Now you can hold a ceremony, I can hold a ceremony. Now let's do that. I mean, we held ceremonies in the middle of London in the Extinction Rebellion movement, and it was beautiful. You know, hundreds of people just came together and joined in, and it gives it a different quality. It and it brings back that idea of that we are there for a bigger vision. Because in direct action we can get lost. You know, then the police moves in and then you run and then all of this, and you get almost lost. You lose actually why you're actually here. And to bring something in which is based on shamanism, mainly in the form of ceremony, ritual, prayer, sacred fires, you know, gives it a different quality. And that is a very feminine way.
Mm. Yeah, I hear that. And um, also patience. I hear patience.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. When the court case around Stonehenge, there is a big infrastructure development, which really, really uh, is horrendous and will do a lot of damage to the sacred site of Stonehenge. The first court case in London about it, the Stonehenge Alliance brought a court case and they won the court case. And we were down at Stonehenge directly at the provisional camp. And we did a fire ceremony the evening before the court case and then took that fire in form of a candle in the train. Jonathan did that. I didn't. We took that and took it all the way to London to the court case. And we had the fire, which was lit in Stonehenge, outside the court. And people gathered around that. And and yes, that is patience, you know. You're not just storming a building. You're doing something different to bring these energies together.
Mm.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing about this work you've done. It's really inspiring. And and beside of your shamanic work and your work as a medicine teacher, um, so um, can you tell us how this work, contributed, from to what you're doing now,
Mm,
really making a
yeah,
difference for the land? If you could tell us more about
a
that.
lot, a lot. I couldn't do what I do now
Mm.
without that work, without that connection to spirit, without the shamanic training I received, with so much gratitude, that indigenous people around the world kept the knowledge going, kept going despite all the obstacles which were thrown in their way. And I couldn't do it without that connection to spirit, to that wider field. You know, it's and it's definitely not for everybody. You need to develop to a certain extent individually before you can take it out there. But it makes a vital contribution to, somebody said, a kind of holistic activism is emerging. And there's somebody who said, and that's quite an interesting sentence, it is in the conversion of spiritual people becoming active and active people becoming more spiritual that the hope of humanity lies. So the idea really is that with the base knowing and development we have now, which has been passed on to us by indigenous people who have kept it alive, we can now bring that into the movements which are all over the world who want to create change. Now, for example, at the moment, lots of organizations running peace ceremonies, of course they do. No. And this is what we need to do. No, it's no good in my book just to say, oh, now I'm having another spirit ally or I have another power animal. Is what do we do with it? Yeah? Can we use that to bring this into the wider field, and touch people who wouldn't usually go to a shamanic workshop? I found when we are out on the ground, people literally walk in from the street to the ceremony because somehow they are touched. They don't know why. You and I know why, because ceremony touches something extremely deep in us, something which humans have done for millennia. But they come in and they stand there and they watch it and they love it, and so it feels to me that the basis we have with shamanic learning experiences, connection to the wider field of spirit, the connection to earth, to nature, that now is the time to bring that out there, out of those small pockets of people, and try our best, Because as I said, we always vision at the beginning. It's really important. There's almost like steps to it. You vision first. You ask, what does the land need? What does spirit want us to do? But instead of asking spirit, how can you help me? You ask, what can I actually do for you here now? What do you want me to do? And then the next step is usually the question, how can I do that best? And you get ideas, you do. And only then you formulate an intent. Now, okay, this is what I want to do. I know there was there's a water movement because our rivers are very polluted, and horrendously polluted, much worse than in Europe, because anyway, doesn't matter why. And that group actually went into the water and asked the spirit of the water directly in the water, so what do you want us to do? You know, it's a different approach than this human egocentric approach. I know exactly what to do. No, I don't. And this is so shamanic, isn't it? We do ask. So, and then you formulate an intent, and then you design the ceremony, you know, and then preferably you do it more than once. As Stonehenge, we did it every full moon. A group did it every full moon. They were there, you know. So yeah. So yeah, that's in a way a different way of creating, isn't it? You co-create with spirit, and then you bring it into the community.
Yeah. And can you tell us, or can you give us some examples, you know, of co-creating that you had in your experience? And
Yeah, yeah.
apart from,
Let's do some. Yeah.
yeah, very
As I
interesting.
said already, I mean, Stonehenge was the big one because it went on forever and so far that it's still not finished because the Stonehenge Alliance won the court case and the government is now appealing. So, and they just a few weeks ago, the government won the second case. Now it's going to court again. But while all of this is going on, it really is ongoing work we are doing and have been doing right from the start. There was a camp, a provisional occupying camp, which was ready to jump when, in case the bulldozers come in. It wasn't necessary because the court cases still go on. But there we did a lot of ceremonies there. And then we did ceremonies at the court. We are still doing ceremonies on Zoom for Stonehenge every few months. We put one out. And all of those were basically designed by our ancestors because we visioned at the beginning, you know, and we were told what to do, basically, and then designed them. Another example is within the environmental movement, especially Extinction Rebellion, with the big marches of 20, 30, 40, 50,000 in London, the occupation of roundabouts and so on. The Buddhists are very good there. I want to bring that in because the Buddhists, what they do, they just sit in the road and meditate. They do absolutely nothing else. But they can hold a ground, you know, because it's very, very difficult to move people who sit there peacefully meditating. No? And so, what we usually do there is ceremony, just to bring everybody back to the idea of why they're actually there. We are there for the planet and for us in the end, for life. No? And when we hold a big ceremony there, and there's usually really hundreds of people joining in, we often do that with drumming and singing and having flowers in the middle and giving people a chance to speak, you know. And this is also designed in a way to bring people back to that bigger picture. It's not just about this occupation or this action on the ground. It is about the bigger picture of that what we have done to this planet could really lead us to extinction, and we need to, and that life and nature is sacred. Yeah? And so Other examples is water ceremonies. There are big movements here in the UK about clean water. Water is life, basically, the idea. And to do water ceremonies, to honor the water, you know, to understand the water. And we have done water ceremonies where people from different parts of the country brought water, and then it goes into a big cauldron, and then we do the ceremony around this, blessing the water, and everybody puts their blessings in. Another thing we have done, there is a group here, Right to Roam, a right to the land, that we can walk the land. How can people connect back with the land if 80% of British land is private? You cannot walk it. Yeah. So how can we get back to nature if we can't walk the land? So we've done ceremonial work there with occupiers, with people who walked through the land, through the private land. But again, so that it has a sacred container. So this is the idea, but I think what's most important, what I wanted to say, is this co-creating with our allies, the waters, the land, the spirits. They are with us. They want us to do things. It becomes so clear. You just have to sit for a while, tune in and ask the question, what do you want me to do? And you will get answers.
Yeah.
So, and you get help.
Yes, that's what I wanted to ask you about. If you could share more about your practice and how do you keep receiving the support of spirit as you know,
You
go
do.
on with your
You
activities
do.
and your project. Yeah. So can you tell us more about that and how you?
You do. And it is astonishing. It is absolutely astonishing. I think what is important with these things is to let go of the expectations of the outcome. You know, I mean, Stonehenge is a good example. This has been going on for a long time now. So you need some perseverance. Your heart needs to be in it. But it doesn't matter in the end whether we get what we want. This is the same for Standing Rock. They couldn't prevent the pipelines, but look what they have created worldwide. There is worldwide now, and it's not just us, there are movements everywhere, a kind of more holistic activism of bringing the spiritual and the activism together. This is happening all over the world. I know an example from Hawaii, where elders of the tribe put themselves in front of the bulldozers and they would not be moved. You know, and they were chanting and they were singing their spiritual chants and songs, and they would not be moved. And we have I come back to your question, we have a group here who chained themselves to some trees at the HS2 project, where they eradicated thousands and thousands of very old trees. And they were singing a song. And they sang the song when the chains were cut, and they sang the song in the police cells, and they kept the ceremony through that song going all the way through until they were released without charge. But it's about, I would think they were on it about 15 hours or so, and they just kept singing. And I think this is how spirit sustains us, because when you do it in a sacred, spiritual way, you can keep it going, and spirit is with you. You know you are right. You take your space because spirit told you to take that space. It's not just my idea. Do you know what I mean? So it's the help you get is very subtle. It's like the help you get is to keep going, you know. And of course, you're with a group who has the same experience. They did the same visioning. Now, they had a connection to spirit, to the wider field. I can't precisely say how spirit helps. It helps that you are starting with a vision which comes not from you. I think that's the most, which comes from that which went in from outside, and then you bring it to the fore. No? And you manifest it concretely on this planet. I think that's, you get that help. And then every time, because there come moments when it slacks, when the energy goes, another ceremony, and it brings it all back together. I think that's the important bit.
Yeah. And what we can highlight in what you just said, earlier we were talking about patience, calm, peace, and all
Yeah,
practice that, being together, gathering and
absolutely.
holding that vision that, um,
And
you know,
having some fun with this as well, make it beautiful.
mm,
Spirit loves beauty, really.
yeah,
And patience, let it develop, let it, and being connected to something bigger
yeah,
at all times. Because if it's just the little you get tired, you despair, you think, is this worth it? Do I want to go on holiday? It's- but you are connected to something big, and I think that's where we come back to shamanism, isn't it? It teaches us, it helps us, it to be connected to something much bigger than ourselves, but have the connection here in ourselves. That's what I feel, at least.
mhm, yeah,
Yeah.
mm,
I mean, it's just what I wanted to say. Somebody at Standing Rock said this wasn't an occupation, this was a ceremony. And it's really interesting that they saw this as something sacred, what they did. That they saw themselves as water protectors, as protectors of life. And with that, it was sacred. And once we keep that in mind, that the shaman is in the end works for the community, and we need to find our communities and work within them, for them, with what we have.
yeah. And talking about this power of inspired action
Yeah.
coming together as a community. Um, can you tell how this is beneficial for our own soul?
Oh, massively, massively. Of course, we haven't even talked about this yet. No, because it's, of course, circular. You're not just giving, you're getting a lot back. And one benefit, thanks for reminding me, Celine, one benefit is we become more fearless, and that's good for our soul. There's nothing to fear when we are out there and taking a stand. Our soul, in a way, feels like it has a purpose here. you know it's there's something which gets nourished, soul nourished. The soul gets nourished because it has the feeling is purpose. The fearlessness grows. It is embedded in a like-minded community. which nourishes it. And it is connected to spirit. It's very soul nourishing. This is not just selfless give, give, give. Oh no, it's circular. It comes back. It comes back in. You know, it is. Yeah. You know, I always envisage when they lit, before they did anything else, the sacred fire at Standing Rock. And yes, in the end, they had to extinguish it. But what happened during those months, imagine how that brought this community together, you know, and how much love was between the people who knew they were there for a reason. Yeah, the love nourishes your soul as well. Yeah, so thanks for asking this, because it is soul nourishment, you know. It really is.
Yeah.
And co-creating always is, because we also understand that we are not alone. We just need to ask and need to be connected more often with spirit and the wider field. The ancestors want us to do it constantly.
Yeah. And would you have some recommendation for people if they don't have a practice yet about, you were sharing about like come to center and listen and ask what you can do. Is there anything else you'd like to share about what people could
Yeah,
practice?
what people could do, you know, I mean, the nicest and easiest way for, especially for people who work more shamanically, is really just to do a journey. And it's only important when you feel you would like to do more. I have heard so many people saying, I would like to, but I don't know. So do a shamanic journey, you know, do a journey and just state the intent that you're connecting with the lands or the waters or your ancestors to get some guidance what you can bring into the world. And then let it unfold. You know, it's really not that difficult. Just asking, what is it you would like me to do in the world now? Can I have some guidance, please? And you will be shown,
Mm.
you know, and then the next journey could be a prayer. Please let me meet the community I can do it with. You know, just step by step connect. Don't think you need to figure it out in your head. You don't.
It's a good distinction.
It is. It is. We forget too often, don't we? We think we have to do it all by ourselves. We don't. So do a guided do a journey, or just some meditation, still yourself, send a wish out that you would like some guidance, what you should do in the world right now. Where are your you need it? Because it's your specific gifts which are needed. And that's not for me to say or for Celine to say. It's for you to find out. That would be my advice, really.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you. That's wise. Thank you.
yeah.
And um, I'm very moved by what you said.
Coming to the end, no?
um,
Mm,
yeah, I mean, I really appreciate your guidance in how to proceed and also um, not to be afraid, not to be afraid. So leaning back, which is very female as well. She's very feminine to lean
mm.
back. We don't have to do it. The inspired action comes from first leaning back and receiving.
Absolutely,
So it's
absolutely, absolutely. Inspired action comes from tuning in, from leaning back, from asking for
yeah.
it to come in. And
Mhm.
only then you bring it out into the world in your specific way. There is no right or wrong. It has to be you. What you're doing here with this conference is a massive piece of action. I have organized some myself. It's a huge amount of work, but it will touch so many people because it is a direct action. The change movement has many, many facets. Now, we are with Sacred Earth Activism doing it on the ground. We also do a lot on Zoom, like what you right now did with the conference, bringing different people and then ideas, bringing ideas out there, practices, touching people you might not never meet. It's we're creating a web of change, aren't we? I hope. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Thank you.
that's what we do.
Very
Yeah,
kind words.
yeah.
And with that, um, is there anything you would like to add? Or, I would really like you to talk about what's next for you, what
Oh,
your
what's next?
programs or any big project, where can we join with you? And what
Yeah. I mean, if you want to look up sacredearthactivism.org, we run regular besides of the action on the ground, we do regular gatherings. They are free. People just come together on Zoom. We also do something called listening circles, which are based on the idea of the talking stick. And again, it's free, so you can just join in. They run monthly, the gatherings and the listening circles. And if you are interested in that kind of work, look us up, sacredearthactivism.org. My individual work with groups and also the medicine woman, it's on my website. So you would need to go into my website, www.christamckinnon.com.
And I just want to share that all of your information, website, will be on the conference website. So for
Wonderful. Yeah.
people
So have a look. We do things on Zoom, but also if you are UK based, we have often workshops running in Glastonbury. The Medicine Woman training course has just started, so that's usually runs once a year. But other workshops are there, yeah. So have a look. If you're interested in work with women, there's some good stuff there.
I'm
And
sure.
yeah, shall we talk about a free gift?
Oh, yes, that would be
Oh,
wonderful.
yes.
And again, please, if you want to have all the information about Krista, go on to the conference website if you didn't have time to note, but all is there about your beautiful works. So yes, please, can you share what you have prepared for it? That'd be really lovely.
So the gift, especially for the people of this conference gathering, which Celine so beautifully puts together, um, is a kind of drumming which you can download, and it's the normal format of 20-minute journey drumming. So for your journey, so if you want to journey to spirit and ask, what is your task in this world right now? Where are you needed? You can use that, and you can download it. And I have recorded that in a studio, and there is a bit of an introduction of how to do the journey. It's about 2-3 minutes. Then you have the drumming, and then you have a callback. So you can download that.
Well, thank you. This is very, very generous of you. It's a beautiful gift. Again, available on the conference website. So please go there and enjoy. Thank you so much. Thank you, Krista, for sharing that with all of us. It's a treat. Thank you. Again, wow, very inspired, very touched, moved by all that you shared. You gave us a lot of beautiful teaching and wisdom and insight on how to, put all of that
Yeah.
spiritual practice into inspired action. So thank you. Is there anything else you want to say to end before?
No, I could say lots more, but I won't. I think we have gone over time already. So thank you. Yeah, I want to thank you, Celine, for inviting me. Thank you so much. And to all the people who watch this, I wish you an inspired, really inspired time, and may you walk a path which is your path. That's the most important thing. And walk it in beauty.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Krista. And thank you, everyone, who watched. Thank you.